Hi guys, this is Lisa Gathandwa, political reporter at News 24. Today we're sitting with Mkhuleko Hlengwa of IFP, is the IFP youth leader and MP. So I have a couple of questions for you. Thank you for sitting in with us.
That's a pleasure, thank you very much.
We're going into the elections, and I was just actually with the Institute for Race Relations, and they were releasing their polls. And currently what they're seeing in terms of your growth in KwaZulu-Natal, they're saying that you might reach an 11% polling state. So what I want to find out from you is that how has the season been? How has the election season been for the IFP? What did I say?
Oh, it's been a grueling campaign, but a very informative one. It has been a learning experience yet again for the IFP, but most importantly, it's been a sobering experience because we have come to recognize yet again that South Africans are genuinely worried about the trajectory of the country, from jobs, crime, poverty, the inequality. So the IFP has presented a very practical, pragmatic manifesto, which is anchored in our track record of very good service delivery, where we have governed and are currently governing now. And we've got a track record which people can trust because it's visibly there for anybody to see where we have been. Of course, we are worried as a party about some of the instability which we have seen. As we sit here now, Durban is literally under siege. And it's a huge voting bloc in KwaZulu-Natal, for example, and so on. So, and the integrity of the elections hinges on the IEC doing the right thing at all times. Now, the fact that SATU teachers continue to be employed as presiding officers in election stations when SATU is openly canvassing for the ANC are things which the IEC needs to continue to correct. It can't be right. But most importantly for the IFP, we are confident going into these elections, buoyed by our electoral comeback in 2016 and the by-election victories, and the fact that South Africans of all walks of life are identifying with the IFP message and trusting the credibility and integrity of what we have to offer.
Your strength has always been obviously in the KZN, but we're seeing you grow in Gauteng as well. What do you equate this growth to? I mean, in Gauteng as well as I think in the Western Cape as well, you're growing. What do you equate this growth?
Look, the growth is hard work. It's being daily in the trenches. It's being daily talking and interacting with South Africans. Objectively and honestly about the IFP and about the country. Principal Telezi has been very clear to the leadership that we need to spend less time in boardrooms and more time interacting with people. And of course, people now realize again we're a credible, tried and tested alternative. Our track record of service delivery is impeccably good. We are not campaigning in these elections denigrating others. We are campaigning in these elections presenting a roadmap for the country with a good leadership, with a clear plan. And we are hopeful that this momentum is going to continue going, because the greatest threat to South Africa and in general is an electorate that is not engaged in the electoral process. Because then we leave elected representatives to their own devices. And the other threat, of course, would be for us in the IFP leadership to allow the IFP to die, because we are the only thing which exists currently in South Africa and futuristically that is genuinely South African, genuinely democratic, genuinely concerned about South Africans, because we are a party for all South Africans.
You say you're a party for all South Africans. It's actually one of the questions that I was going to ask at a later stage, because the IFP has generally been seen as a patriarchal party in terms of how it's got mainly a male leadership. The rise of Zanele Gamagwaza Msibi. I remember there was a point where there was thinking that when she was rising up in the ranks, certain quarters of male leaders were threatened by this rise, which led to that splinter. But do you feel that the brand IFP is a brand that us as women can relate to? I mean, do you have leaders, female leaders, and what exactly are your policies when it comes to women?
It's funny you bring up the Zanele Magwaza matter. You know, in the IFP constitution at the time when she was in the party, she was in fact the second in charge. She was the national chairperson of the party. She rose through the ranks as a woman, capable. She was the mayor of Zululand district, deployed by the IFP. I mean, alongside many other women mayors and leaders. She was our premier candidate in KwaZulu-Natal. She was a woman. And had she been patient with the structures of the party, I'm pretty certain that she would have been the leader of the IFP. But it's about timing. But we now know, as a fact of history, that her NFP project was sponsored by the ANC. Talk to Sekhuale's amongst the other leaders who were bankrolling that operation. Jacob Zuma is another one, and so on.
I think I remember you saying something about you not denigrating other parties.
No. I'm not denigrating. I'm putting it in the context that the birth of the NFP was conceived and birthed by the ANC. We've presented chapter and verse evidence, never been disputed. And we know that the NFP was registered whilst they were still in the IFP. But I'm not going to sit here and speak about the NFP. They're a dead project. They're gone, finished. I'm not interested in them. They were an immense headache to the party, one which we were able to sort out. Our focus now is on building an IFP for all South Africans, as we've always been doing that. Women in the IFP have got free rein and carte blanche to operate and do everything that they need to. They are there. You know what the issue is? The media has for the longest of time done us a huge disservice, because media houses will only want to report on IFP functions and events if Prince Buthelezi is going there. And then you ask us, where are the leaders? We invite you to functions and places where they'll be speaking, we don't pitch. The national chairperson of the Women's Brigade, capable, effective, efficient. She was mayor of Jozini. She's an MPL now. She's leading the party's efforts in Mpumalanga province. Had a massive rally on Saturday. We invited the media. Dololo presence. In the top 5 of the parliamentary list, there's Lizel van der Merwe, below the age of 40, just by the way. Zandile Machozi, below the age of 35. And then the list goes on. Women are there.
So you have a youth composite as well as...
Yes. I can assure you the caucus we're taking to Parliament is going to be representative of every demographic in South Africa. And Lizel van der Merwe has been leading the charge in Parliament on women issues, supported by caucus, supported by party structures. And the one mistake we will never make is to think that women issues must be advocated for only by women. This is a societal responsibility. And so we've been present in that space. I'll take you back historically. When we administered the Zulu government, one of the things we found was what Theophilus Shepstein had termed the Zulu Code Law, a very stupid and myopic act of somebody who was stuck in the Stone Age, which said women were minors. So if your husband died today, tomorrow you were chucked out of your house with your kids because minors couldn't own kids. It classified them. We repealed that, restoring full rights to women. There's a whole so-called notion about that traditional leadership is about women only. the IFP ushered in a new era of ensuring women participate 100% without compromise at the very heart of the so-called patriarchy, which was traditional leadership. Women traditional leaders today are administering traditional council and traditional authorities. So we will never back down from advancing the collective interests of women. As we speak now, we're working on a private members bill to compel corporates to disclose salaries because we want to fight the gender pay gap, which discriminates women generally and black women specifically because they are discriminated against as women and then as black women. So we want to fight all those things. We are pretty confident that we are on course with ensuring that women's rights take center stage in our discourse. None of our lists, parliament or councils, pass the test if they do not have a minimum of 40% women.
But are you saying that the electorate understands this? Are you saying that your voters understand your plight for women in parliament? Are you saying that there is relatively some, because I know with the EFF, for instance, Julius was saying to the media a couple of weeks back that they're struggling to get the female vote. Are you saying that you have that female vote?
Well, none of us can sit here for certain and say we've got the vote until we've got the vote. But what we have done is to ensure that we create space, time immemorial, to ensure that women participate without any hindrance in the political discourse of this country. In business, one of the things was Itala Bank that we developed as the IFP, which was geared towards supporting small, medium enterprises, including women businesses, because black people didn't have security at that time, so we created a black bank. So these people who are also now saying they want to create a state bank, we've already done it, because that's just how forward-looking the IFP is. So all I can say is, a wise man once said, it is better to travel in hope than arrive. We are hopeful that our efforts will yield results. We had the biggest composition of women even at CODESA as the IFP. And so I don't want to preempt the electorate, but of course the IFP is victim of a propaganda and perception which we didn't create, and people go around calling us a patriarchal party, which is just hogwash and nonsense, all those things. We are a party for all South Africans. Our Secretary General, Sibongile Nkomo, she was a woman, German, she elected at the last conference. Unfortunately, her health took a turn for the worse in the most discomforting of ways. And she stepped down from her position in January, just ahead of our conference. That's the CEO of the party. Even, can I tell you this narrative? I'm sure you will know. Umsinga is one of the places that has been classified as highly patriarchal. The mayor there is a woman, because we are pushing back on the frontiers of patriarchy for society to understand that women are equal. Okay,
now Prince Buthelezi is
that great man. That great man.
He's hanging his boots. And you'll have a conference sometime
July.
This year. And you'll elect a new leader.
Yes.
I imagine that, having such a bold figure, a key figure in the IFP, that having him removing himself from that space will kind of create a period of confusion in terms of where you see yourself as a party that's growing. Would you say that's not it?
No. But let me start here. Let me pay tribute to Prince Buthelezi, who has served this country with great distinction, the highest level of patriotism I am yet to encounter in any individual, against all odds.
The highest level
of patriotism I've yet to encounter. I have had the honor and privilege to call him my mentor, and shall continue doing so, to call him a colleague, to call him a leader, but importantly to call him a great South African. He has worked very hard for South Africa, the most vilified leader in this country. unfairly tried in courts of public opinions on things which have got no shred of truth. But on the daily, he has kept a keen focus on serving this country and has done very well against all odds. He has served the historical mission of liberating this country. So I am proud of Prince Buthelezi, and so is the IFP. He's done well. And as we go to this conference, as he says, he's stepping down, we are confident that we'll be able to continue relying on him for advice, guidance as our very sober sounding board. And we are already in a transition. We've nominated Comrade Hlengwa to be the next leader. So there's no confusion. There's great certainty within the party and party structures of the direction that we're going to take as a party moving forward. And on this growth, and Prince Buthelezi will be stepping down, leaving the IFP on a strong footing for the future. And he has done well. I can only pray and hope that those that will write our history in the years to come will do so honestly and objectively and judge Prince Buthelezi correctly.
As what? What would you place?
Prince Buthelezi is a freedom fighter. In our struggle for freedom and democracy, and has distinguished himself as a voice of reason in the most difficult of times in this country. You know, there was huge celebrations in this country in certain quarters when President Mbeki was recalled. And Prince Buthelezi said, you do not take joy in the shortcomings or the downfall of others. Because he foresaw then the danger in which the country was slipping into, where our politics was fast becoming playing the man and not the ball. The very man whom had fired him from cabinet, he was the first one to defend him. There was great maturity in that act, and has continued to warn against those things. Even when we know that President Zuma has been part and parcel of the engineering of the collapse of the IFP. But Prince Buthelezi never shied away from defending him, in principle, even in Parliament, so that our country could continue to function. Not endorsing any of the wrongs that he did, but respecting the office that he occupied. I can sit here and enumerate at length the selflessness of this man, the integrity. You know, the Mangosuthu University of Technology in Umlazi was built with money that he sourced from a friend, Mr. Oppenheimer. In a sea of corruption, any person would have pocketed that money. Yet there's an institution on the daily educating the black child for the future, reviving the so-called Bush College, the University of Zululand, which Chief Justice Mogoeng is a graduate of, the Deputy Chief Justice Zondo is a graduate of. Dr. Zweli Mkhize is a beneficiary of a bursary dispensed by the KwaZulu government. When we write this history, we will recognize that all he ever did was put this country first. And I'm proud of the fact that he has never let the vilification steer him off course. He has remained true to the mission of South Africa.
I'm sure he's proud of you at this moment. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to coalition talks. Currently in coalition in some municipalities with the DA. And I expect that, going into these, if there are coalitions to be made, that going into these talks, these new, fresh talks at this point, considering that you have relatively grown, that you'll have more of a footing or more of a hand to play. I just wanted to know, what would you say are your standpoints when you come into coalitions? What do you not negotiate? What are your non-negotiables?
Look, we are we are not in any coalition talks as we speak now. We just want to let the election run its course. The only warning I would want to give to the Democratic Alliance is to stop this very childlike, ordinarily I would say childish, but out of respect I'll say childlike mentality of saying if you do not vote for the ANC, EFF or D, then it's a wasted vote. They're even issuing out infograms and memes about this. It is those so-called wasted votes that have got them in a cooperation government here in the city of Johannesburg. They're not covering themselves in any honor. And the essence of multi-party democracy is to give space and voice to every voice, and so provide the necessary choices. Why should any of us be entering into coalitions with people who are calling our voters wasted?
What are you saying?
I'm just issuing a warning that let us not compromise the possibilities of discussion about this country on the basis of very petty politicking.
I'm actually thinking about it. I didn't ask if you would be going into coalitions with the DA or the ANC.
No, for sure.
If there is a choice in
No,
the
for
matter.
sure.
Who are you most likely to go into coalition with?
Ourselves. We want to work with the IFP and the DA and the ANC or the EFF or whomever who need the IFP support. We will enter into a discussion with them, or vice versa, they can enter into a discussion with us. Like I'm saying now, in 2011 there was a lot of hung municipalities. We approached the ANC and they said no. They worked with their project, the NFP. Even in here in 2016, the ANC approached us in some municipalities and so on, and we decided that at the time that it would be strategic to work with the DA with our wasted votes. And we're now going into another election which is going to present a new set of circumstances, and we will weigh and assess those circumstances and make an informed decision on the basis of whatever the election will give us. None of us here know the sex of the baby that will be born on the 8th, so none of us can buy pink or blue. We're all buying green and yellow because we're neutral, because none of us know. We are not going to compromise on the constitution of this country. We're not going to compromise on integrity. We're not going to compromise on human rights. And we are going to put first and foremost the collective interests of our people, whomever we work with. And we're not, you see, the danger, of course, with some parties is this hardcore ideologism which is misplaced and misguided, because we're wanting to sort out South African solutions theoretically. We're very pragmatic. So we're going to look at who is presenting the best offer possible for our situation and work with them.
What does that mean? What is the best offer possible?
Well, the nature of coalitions is that you have a discussion about how we're going to move forward. So we will discuss.
So positions will be discussed?
No, positions are secondary. That's the problem. People see themselves as ministers. No. Interact with people. Like if any, let me make a very wild, exaggerated example. If anybody wanted to run a government and said, women's rights must be done away with, we're not going to work with those crazy people. So let's allow the elections to run their course. But the constitution, integrity, human rights, and of course we're not going to participate in a unitary government. We believe in the devolution of power. So if anybody thinks we're going to allow for provinces to be scrapped, then they are dreaming a nightmare. So those are the things, but we're not wanting to present a set of things now, because they will take away from what we want to achieve, and that's an IFP government. After elections, we'll have a discussion.
Okay.
But I feel that we need to create a conducive and enabling environment for those talks now by interacting cordially with one another.
And that's something that the DA hasn't been doing?
I think that they have not covered themselves in glory. And of course,
that might bite them in.
And of course, this is not said to now say we are writing the DA off. No, we're working with the DA in the city of Johannesburg and governing municipalities with them. But it's important for us to remind each other. And I mean, amongst other things, the ANC in itself, when it was sponsoring the NFP project, that's wholly sad, really, that they had to resort to that kind of poor politicking. So, I mean, none of them are. I mean, I know Julius Malema was colorful in some rhetoric saying post Prince Buthelezi the IFP will end and so on. So would he want to? Prince Buthelezi is stepping down in July, so it becomes the question: is he working with a party that will be ending? It's those kind of things. All I'm saying is, let's engage the issues.
Well, there you have it. Thank you. Goodbye.